this is a bit of a coup for Mr. Housakos, because he's been chatting up senators behind the scenes even before he became the official leader of the Senate opposition, whispering in their ear, hey, why don't you come over to Common Sense? You don't want to be around these guys. We already knew that two senators crossed caucuses rather, in order to join the Conservatives, and we speculated that, you know what, maybe there's some more conversations going on in the back room. Well, it turns out there's been conversations going on between Senator Leo Housakos and other senators for months, over 6 months.
Yeah, I believe it.
And ladies and gentlemen, a third has crossed, and that might not be all. In fact, if I were betting, I would bet more on more senators crossing to join the Conservative caucus in the next couple of months than the Edmonton Oilers and winning the Stanley Cup. Sorry, Oilers fans, but let's take a look. Conservatives add another senator to their ranks, boosting caucus to 14 members. If you recall, they were down to 11 earlier. So who crossed? Well, he didn't really cross, he just rejoined. This is Senator Larry W. Smith, and he is now with the Conservative Party of Canada, as you can see. He joined the Conservative, or was appointed by Mr. Stephen Harper way back in 2011, and he's set to retire next year, April 28th. Isn't that ironic? 1 year to the day after the election. But I believe he left the Conservative caucus a few years ago and has decided that he would like to finish his term as a senator back with the original opposition of where he actually joined. Now, let's get back to that Globe and Mail article that was talking about this.
Quebec Senator Larry Smith has joined the Chamber's Conservative caucus, making him the third person to cross the Senate floor since the beginning of June and boosting the opposition caucus to 14 members. It's a return to the past for Mr. Smith, who was the Conservative opposition leader in the Senate from 2017 to 2019. In 2022, he joined the Canadian Senators Group, which has no party affiliation but remained a Conservative Party member. Newly minted Senate opposition leader Leo Housakos made the announcement in a statement on Thursday, praising Mr. Smith's approach, public policy knowledge, and work ethic. Quote, "He has always been a strong advocate for Quebec and for common sense conservative values," end quote, Mr. Housakos said in the statement. Quote, "We are very pleased to have him back," end quote. The Conservatives also welcomed Senator Mary Jane McCallum, an Indigenous leader, on Tuesday, and Senator David Adams Richards, a prominent Canadian writer, last week. Both were appointed by former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Mr. Richards was the first addition to the Conservative caucus since Senator Scott Tanis, who now leads the Canadian Senators Group and was appointed in 2013 by former Prime Minister Stephen Harper. Asked in an interview if the three additions were part of a strategic recruitment plan, Mr. Housakos said that there is a constant commitment to ensure the Senate's official opposition has the numbers and strength to hold the government accountable. He continues to speak to senators who have approached him and shown an interest in joining the caucus, he said. He did not indicate how many senators that is, but said that between now and the end of the year, there would be a, quote, "good handful of senators that are seriously considering it," end quote. Well, that's excellent news. I haven't read that until just now, so that's fantastic.
It's excellent. Excellent.
It is excellent because, he has a really good point that you do need an opposition in the Senate.
Well, and for those that may not know, party status in the Senate, you need at least 9 seats. Now, the trouble with the Conservatives opposition is, as there are more and more retirements and there's not going to be any new senators appointed to the Conservative caucus, that's going to be a problem where your official opposition doesn't have party status in the Senate. So that's going to be kind of an issue. And I think it's something that, they should really look at. But to look at the overall theme of what's been going on here, I think it's very, very interesting that this is a bit of a coup for Mr. Housakos, because he's been chatting up senators behind the scenes even before he became the official leader of the Senate opposition, whispering in their ear, hey, why don't you come over to Common Sense? You don't want to be around these guys, and have egg on your face. And plus, there are powers granted to the opposition party in the Senate, and you get to participate in virtually everything. So there's definitely some perks in being part of the opposition caucus in the Senate. Now, what's nice to see is that they are actually swaying people that, for some reason or another, they chose to leave the caucus before. They've swayed people that Justin Trudeau has appointed. And I think these senators that are joining have seen, at least the ones appointed by Justin Trudeau, I don't owe you anything. And what I do owe is I owe Canadians to be a good voice for my region in Canada when it comes to judging legislation. And that's what we saw on committee last, I guess it was in the fall, when Freeland sat in front of the Senate Finance Committee.
Yes.
And was blasted by everybody.
Absolutely. Now, unfortunately, they still passed the bill.
Because it was a money bill.
Yeah, because it was a money bill. And typically the Senate doesn't get in the way of money bills because, again, no taxation without representation. Also, I guess, no refund of taxation without representation. So they usually defer to the House on issues regarding finance. But they didn't let her go easy. They grilled her. Right.
So it's interesting that he has obviously multiple lines in the water, and he seems to be of the opinion that there's going to be more and more people crossing over to the Conservative caucus. Mm-hmm. So that's really, really nice to see. And it's nice to see that the senators are... they're putting Canada first in this regard. Now, do we feel that senators should be elected or appointed? This is the million-dollar question. And I was thinking about this today. If they had to be appointed, let's just say if they had to be appointed, I think it would be interesting that the Senate is actually wiped clean after every government. So just imagine that. Senate is wiped clean after every government. And then after the election, the percentage of seats that your party won in Parliament, that is the number of senators that your party can actually appoint to the Senate. So that's just something I was thinking about today. So this would ensure that there would never, ever, ever be a scenario where there would be no Conservative senators in there. And I'm thinking objectively here, folks, so just bear with me on this. It would also ensure that you get other party representation in the Senate as well.
Like NDP or Green or whatnot.
Right. Because if you're talking about true democracy and the will of the people, technically there should be other senators representing those other groups in there as well. Or maybe you go by just party status. I don't know. But that, to me, if you were going to go appointed, that makes a heck of a lot more sense than just giving the Prime Minister absolute power over the Senate. So that's something. That's just something. Now, should they be elected? It's funny, we talked to Senator Don Platt and we talked to Senator Leo Housakos, and they both had opposite ideas on this. Yeah,
I believe it was Senator Housakos who said that there's a benefit to being appointed instead of being elected because it's a lot less partisan, believe it or not, in the Senate, because they know that they're going to be there for the next 10, 15, 20 years. They're going to be working with each other, so they can't be at each other's throats. And also, You're not really pandering to a certain demographic to try to get their vote. You're already in the Senate. That's your job. So focus on doing your job, kind of thing.
Right. So I think it would cost more every election.
Yeah, because I mean, our past election, I don't think we've had the official numbers out yet, but it was over $600 million from what I understand.
Yeah. But I
now do that times two, right? Because you do it for the House and the Senate. I think that the Senate, not that I think, but the Senate is a relic of the Westminster parliamentary system, where you have the House of Commons, which is your elected representative, and then your House of Lords, which you are literally born into, right? You're born a lord. So that's kind of where that comes from. That's why we don't elect our senators, because here in Canada, we don't have lords, we don't have ladies, we don't have barons or any nobility, right? So that's why we have senators instead. We have these people that are appointed to do a job in place of the lords in the House of Lords. And they're just regular common folk.
Yeah. Now, it's tough. It's really tough to, if I had to pick, because when I evaluate these things, I try and think of not just for the moment. I try and think of for the next 25 years, what would this decision look like? At least with the appointed by party head, you are, in effect, you're electing these senators, because, like, you're not electing them specifically, but you're electing them by percentage, and you would guarantee a refresh every session. Now, the other issue is that you are not actually, electing these people. You're trusting that the party leaders are going to make that right decision. Is that the right decision? I don't know. I really don't know. My problem is Canadians en masse do not pay attention to politics as it is to elect the right MPs, as we've seen. So does it make sense to elect, to trust them to elect senators? Maybe. I don't know. Because the same argument could be made, do you trust them to elect MPs in the first place?
Because as far as I understand, with senator appointments, it's not just the prime minister. I think the prime minister gets the final say, but there's a whole committee that identifies possible, possible appointments for the Senate. They might be like, oh, well, Ryan's a possible appointment because, he's a party member and he does this and that and blah, 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 blah. And then the prime minister gives it the thumbs up or the thumbs down, from what I understand. So
if I had to pick, I think I would go with my new idea, just because it's a new idea. Because I think it's interesting. And there's probably lots of problems with it that I haven't thought of, already, and it may be a terrible idea in the end. I think it's better than just the prime minister gets to appoint whomever they want, because, like it or not, it's good to have some of the other parties in there to argue their points. And for the entire history of Canada, you have only ever had Conservative or Liberal in there. That's it. So would it be helpful to have some NDP senators in there? Maybe. Don't know. It would certainly help have more of an opposition in the Senate, because the Senate is set up from a legislative perspective to operate exactly like the House of Commons, like almost exactly. They can introduce bills just like they do in the House of Commons. They have committee, like it's almost a mirror image, except there's only 110, I think. 110
yeah, I think it's
seats,
110 seats. Yeah.
Versus the 343. So if it's a mirror image, and they're each screening each other's stuff, but only one is the government, it may be better to have more of an opposition in the Senate to ensure that these bills that are coming across are really what they should be. So that's my thought. That's my thought.
So I just want to add that while Ryan was speaking, I was able to find on the Government of Canada website the, what is it here? Independent Advisory Board for Senate Appointments. So I was correct that they do have kind of like a committee or a board that that advises the Prime Minister on Senate appointments. And it looks like Canadians can actually apply for it. It seems quite interesting. So I'm going to send you guys a link. I'm going to drop it in the chat. And if you're watching after the fact, you will be able to find it in the description of the video. But it runs through how Canadians can apply, number one, and what the assessment criteria is, what the questions, like commonly asked questions and answers are. So it seems like it's pretty interesting. Got a lot of information there. So I'll pop that in chat for you guys.
And you have to be at least 35 years old.
You do.
So we will see what happens in the coming months as it relates to the Senate and the Conservative caucus. But as Senator Leo Housakos has said, we have a feeling that it's about to get just a little bit bigger.